Hello and welcome to Weston Nurseries in Lincoln, where spring has finally come and we have some wonderful spring colour to show you. My name's Catherine and I'm going to talk about a few of my favourites at the moment. There are many beautiful plants here that do their thing in spring, so if I don't cover your favourite or you don't see what you like mentioned, please note that we have plenty of other things that are great here. So I am going to start with a perennial favourite, no pun intended, creeping phlox. You see it everywhere this time of year in New England, with good reason. It's really hardy, it blooms early, and best still, while these are cultivars, it is a native plant, native to these ecoregions here. And it's great, therefore, for the early pollinators, the early queen bumblebees, eastern carpenter bees, many other native bees that appear early in spring. We have a range of colours. We don't have any of the white actually in front of me at the moment, but white through shades of lavender, pink, sort of reddish, and more to a deep blue. So this is my first pick for phlox. When we get down into the yard proper, I will be able to show you its shade equivalent. There is a shade equivalent for this time of year as well. So here we are down in the yard proper, and this is where our shade phlox is living at the moment. We have here wild blue phlox. It grows, as I said, in the shade. A little taller, obviously, than the creeping phlox. And it comes in the cultivars in shades of white, a very sort of bluish lavender, and a sort of purpley pink here. So this one is much better in the shade, although at this time of year it can tolerate the sun that we have growing here. So this is Phlox divaricata. I think I've just about managed its name, but woodland phlox is far easier to manage. So this particular phlox, unlike the creeping phlox, which is a real matte ground cover, you know, that is great for, as I say, front of the border, growing over the edge of stone walls and that. This is where you have that sort of part shade from deciduous trees and that. It grows a little taller, so its flowers, instead of being lots of individual flowers, are clustered together at the end of the stems, which are about 8 inches tall. And now I want to show you my next plant. This is the common name Lungwort, Pulmonaria. It is a great spring blooming plant, good for partial shade into full shade. It comes in shades predominantly of blue, purple and pink, and most of them have this really attractive spotted foliage. The nice thing about them is once established, they are actually really quite drought tolerant. If it gets too hot for them in the summer, they will actually temporarily go dormant and then come back after a few weeks growing some more leaves once the weather cools down and rainfall increases. They are critter resistant. If you were to actually feel the leaves, they're quite bristly. They're covered in all these little hairs, as are the stems. So this is a great plant for the spring and also, as I say, critter resistant. Moving on, I want to highlight a plant that also blooms at this time of year. Some of them are native, some of them are cultivars, and this is Columbine, Aquilegia. As you can see, the whole top along here is made up of a variety of different cultivars. I'm just going to turn this one round so you can really appreciate what the interior of the flower looks like. So one of the common names of these is called Granny's bonnets, and you can see why. Note that they have really long nectar spurs here. They are designed to be pollinated by long-tongued bees and hummingbirds. This is our native Columbine, so this naturally grows around here, and you can see again not quite so long nectar spurs, perfect though for the early bees and the hummingbirds that come to our region. They can take sun, partial shade, great plant for this time of year. I really like them. And here we are now next to Dianthus, another favourite of mine, partly because many of them come with such wonderful scent. This particular one does smell wonderful. Scent from heaven. Well, yes, that says it all. They are another sort of ground cover plant, and what we have here is a selection that goes from really tiny little ground cover with the most delicate little flowers, gradually getting larger and a little taller, through to a very compact garden pink here, and then all the way up to the real cottage garden pinks that I'm holding here. This one happens to be in 2 shades of pink. Again, they're spring blooming, drought tolerant once established, and just a great sun-loving plant for the front of the border. And if you appreciate scent, put them in planters or somewhere where you're going to appreciate them. You know, have them growing near to the house. They're not big plants, so you've got to get a little close and personal to appreciate how they smell. But believe me, it's truly wonderful. And here we are down in our perennials yard proper, in the shade section, or partial shade as I should say, because many of these plants like to have the benefit of the spring sunshine, I should say, when there isn't much foliage on the trees, but appreciate the shading that comes later in the season. So as I mentioned earlier, this is Lungwort, Pulmonaria, and this one is Trevi Fountain, which does come in a beautiful blue colour, really nice distinct spotted foliage, just as fuzzy as the other ones, so critter resistant. Really nice colour combinations, which go beautifully well with our next plants. Tiarella, FoamFlower. Tiarella is a native. These are strictly speaking nativars because Tiarella itself tends to run as ground cover, but the thing with Tiarella, does have distinctive markings on its leaves, quite pretty, but it's the little flowers here that everybody loves at this time of year, and you can see how impactful they are against that green and maroon foliage. And yes, native as I said, Pulmonaria isn't, and nor is our next one, but I want to showcase this because this is doing its thing at this time of year. It's Bergenia. Where I come from, it's called elephant's ears, but here it's known as pig squeak because it's got these sort of rubbery-like leaves that if you rub between your fingers, I understand, in the right way, it'll make a pig squeaking noise. So here we have a beautiful pale pink variety, which is known as Angel Kiss. Well, what a pretty name for a pretty flower. And I just wanted to showcase that they're not only in the pale colours like this, but often in pinks as well. Again, another plant that's really quite drought tolerant when established. And if the winter's mild, it will keep some of its foliage. It will often turn an even redder shade come the fall, like some of our other plants do. But yes, it's a tough little plant, as are all 3 that we've just looked at here, and they all make a great combination together. And just to prove it does squeak, and lastly, I'm going to take one of these Tiarella with me to just walk a short distance across the yard to the Heuchera and the Huecherella, which are all sort of similar plants, and I want you to see how beautiful they will all be together. You know, you don't need flowers for everything to look beautiful. So here we are amongst our Heuchera, which are grown primarily for their foliage, as you can see, which is stunning. And then breeders have taken Tiarella here and Heuchera and crossed it to give us the best of both worlds in many ways. This, if I can delicately get it out, it's got a little stem that got broken, but this is Huecherella. It is a cross between Heuchera and Tiarella. You have leaves, you have flowers, the best of both worlds. So this is my recommendation for shade pretty much any time of year, but this year you get the bonus of the flowers. Over here we have the flowers that actually come on certain types of Heuchera. Coral bells, that's why it gets its common name, because it has these beautiful rosy pink flowers. And these are actually attractive to pollinators, hummingbirds as well. You know, when they're coming out of hibernation at this time of year, the pollinators, the hummingbirds get in here. They're not quite here yet. So I last looked, they were in Pennsylvania, so they're not far away. So make sure your hummingbird feeders are ready, by the way, or that you have plenty of plants like this in your yard to make them want to stay when they arrive. But this is, as I say, Heuchera, which has slightly different flowers, but also attractive. For now, that's it. Those are my picks for really early spring blooming perennials. There are plenty others here. I'm looking at the Jacob's Ladder behind me, which is a native plant and is gorgeous. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and where there's plenty more information like that.